without a lot of further ado, I'm going to let Bonin do the Bonin show for you, and then we'll be done. So off you go.
Hello, Dublin. How are you guys? Woo! Right? You guys look beautiful and smart. In the immortal words of Jay-Z, we're bubbling in Dublin. I'm very excited to be here with you guys today. My name is Bough, Vice President of Global Media and Consumer Engagement, and as of yesterday, also Global E-Commerce. So you can say congratulations to me. I got a raise a little bit. No money, just more responsibility. But I work for a company called Mondelez International. Mondelez International, as Spencer mentioned, we have some of the world's most beloved brands, whether it's Oreo, Cadbury, Milka, Trident, you name it. We are the world's largest snacking company. To get a few things out of the way, I'd love to continue conversations on Twitter, so follow me, connect with me. LinkedIn is also very important. Look for something that we're going to do there in about a month and a half, as well as because I just picked up e-commerce. If you're an e-commerce startup, please find me. I'd love to talk to you. I think we can reinvent e-commerce. But what I'm here to talk to you about today is really simple, is that I believe there is a separation between how old organizations operate and new organizations operate. Organizations that were built of this generation versus those that were built of a past generation. And the dichotomy is simple. It's that old organizations, for time, have had a hard time integrating innovation into the way that they work. And I believe the only way to change that is to change the culture of the organization. And that cultural change begins with transforming and inspiring the talent, the raw talent that sits inside of our four walls. So let's do a little bit of a historic background on organization. So if you were a marketing executive in the 50s and I came into your office and I said, look, I really want you to invest in this thing called television, you would tell me to get out because this thing called radio works really, really, really well. But what happened were three brave organizations, Unilever, Kraft, and P&G, made a decision to make a bold move, to jump into television because what they saw was that consumer consumption was eclipsing where media investment was. And as a result, they built competitive advantage that transformed their business for the next 50 years. And I would argue that we're seeing the exact same thing today with mobile. In fact, 23% of media is consumed on a mobile device, but less than 1% of spending, which means that the boardrooms of most organizations look something like this. There's somebody in the front, probably a CMO, who says, look, I think we need a mobile strategy. And then finally somebody looks up from their device, very distracted, and says, I'm sorry, but did you say something? But what's interesting, it's not just an example of boardrooms, it's actually a representation of society at large. We have become the most distracted society in human history. But the amazing things about humans is they'll never admit that they're distracted. Instead, they'll tell you, no, keep talking to me because I'm multitasking. I can multitask, but they're actually lying to you. There was a study that was done by the American Psychiatric Association. And what they did, they took two groups. They asked one group to use mobile phones and multitask, and they asked the second group to smoke marijuana. And there was a 10-point drop in those that smoked marijuana, which was twice as much as those that multitask, which means one thing that's pretty simple, which you're better off being a pothead than pretending that you can multitask. In fact, other studies actually show that using a mobile device is as addictive as cocaine. As addictive as cocaine. So Twitter and Facebook are like gateway drugs, and there's somebody in a dark alley saying, just give me a status update, please. Just reply me, please. I'm dying over here. Well, we're strung out on technology. I get the same question all the time from senior leaders. Yes, Bonin, but is mobile at scale? I said, okay, well, let's do a little bit of research. Well, there are 7 billion people on Earth, 5.1 billion own a cell phone, and only 4 billion own a toothbrush, which means that 1 billion people didn't get the text message on the importance of hygiene, right? I love this. It says, honk if you love Jesus, text while driving if you want to meet him. Which means that even our religious institutions understand the importance of mobility, but still big organizations fail to move fast. How many people in here have ever thought that their phone rang, but when they reached in their pocket or their phone vibrated, there was nothing going on? Raise your hand really quickly. Come on, say today any participation. It's not just you. It's actually a disease. It's called phantom vibration syndrome. And what they say, I'm sure Novartis and Merck will come out with a drug, and what they say is that people who experience this have tactile hallucinations like meth addicts. So it's literally like a physical drug reaction to this vibration. But what scares me is that this is the man who invented the mobile phone, right? Martin Cooper, nice white-haired gentleman. What he thought he was inventing was a device for us to communicate voice. But in reality, he was creating a world of connected devices that would transform society at large. Bain did a study, and they looked, and they said that every single consumer packaged goods will be connected to the internet by 2020. When I think about our organization, and we sell billions of products a month, it means that we might become some of the world's largest technology companies. But we don't operate like that. We don't look like Cisco. We don't look like, is Cisco still a technology company? No, we don't look like Google. We don't think like Facebook. We don't move at the speed of Twitter. And so how do we begin to change the culture of our organization to unlock the power and potential we have in front of us? Well, it starts with talent. And it starts with understanding that the talent that sits in our four walls have already started from a discrepancy. In fact, the institutions that they graduated from didn't prepare them to compete in a new generation of economy. Less than 1% of the course descriptions of the top 100 business schools use the word mobile, emerging, or digital technology, which means we're graduating MBAs into the world that aren't really prepared to be a part of this new economy, which, by the way, would be okay. Because at one point, all that there was were big organizations. But what happened 10 years, 15 years ago is organizations like Amazon began to be born. And now the same type of talent went there, except 15 years later, they have digital affluence. And when I talk to those guys, they all say the same exact thing to me. They say, you know what? We're tired of selling books. We want to sell cookies. We want to sell chocolate. We want to reinvent things like Uber. We want to reinvent diaper selling. And as those guys begin to look at the ranks of our organizations, they say, you know what? We think we can do better. And as organizations, we have to ask ourselves, have we prepared the talent that sits inside of our four walls to compete? Have we challenged our talent to think different? And I would question you and say that we probably haven't. And so what I wanted to do was understand what is the difference between organizations built of a new generation versus those of the past. And so I did a little research. So the first and most interesting point is that organizations that were built in the last 7 to 10 years have been able to create value that's so much greater than those that have been around for 100 years. The other thing that's interesting is that it has nothing to do with size. So these are the 13 people that started Instagram. And they sold Instagram for $1 billion. In fact, I did the first branded program with them. I know them very well. It also has nothing to do with industry. So 3D printing is revolutionizing the industry. MakerBot sold for $403 million. It also has nothing to do with geography. So there are over 100 places that look like Silicon Valley, Silicon Alley, Silicon Lane, Silicon Forest, Silicon Beach. You think with all this creativity in this room, we come up with better names than just Silicon something, I guess, but I guess that's kind of our level of creativity, just knock it off, right? It also has nothing to do with age. What's interesting is all these kids have one thing in common. They're all founders. In fact, the kid on the far left created an app called Bustin' Jeeber. Bustin' Jeeber. You laugh, he gave a TED Talk. I get to come to Web Summit to talk to you, you know what I'm saying? That's where my career is at. You understand? I'm just kidding. And you guys all heard Peter Thiel and some of the Thiel fellows. It has nothing to do with education. Mr. Karp from Tumblr dropped out of high school and sold his business for $1 billion to Yahoo. Now I know what you're all saying. Yahoo will buy anything, Bonin. What does that prove? And you're probably right. But even rock stars, Bono, will.i.am, are pointing to today's coders, folks that sit in these rooms, and they believe that they're the new rock stars. And they're right. When you look at the magazines that represent culture, whether it's Billboard with Biz, Jobs on Rolling Stone, Sheryl Sandberg on Cosmo, Bonin on Campaign, come on. It's good stuff, guys. Anyway, the question is, what's going on here? And I would argue that these new organizations have tapped into a cultural phenomenon that has driven hackers for years, which is we have to break shit in order to unlock greater value. In fact, Facebook believes it so much, they write it on the back of their t-shirt. It is the cultural imperative that drives everything they do. And so I would argue we are entering into a point in time today where I've termed hackonomy. How do we begin to create value? By breaking things. And that's what we have to ask. Break our organizations, break our process, break our careers, break ourselves, unlock greater value. Because there's nothing more at stake than the growth of these businesses. And when you look at it, some of the best things in the world have been created by hacks. The like button, 24 hours at a Facebook hackathon. Open Airplane, they believe they're creating the Uber of the airline industry. Now I travel, I've been on all continents except Antarctica this year. I travel all the time, but I'm never like, you know what? I think I need an airplane in 3 minutes. Let me just, my point is not all ideas will work. We'll have to see. People are even hacking their body. Stellog, he's got a Bluetooth microphone in an implanted ear in his arm, so he can answer his phone when it rings. Hello, hello, can you hear me now? You get an ear here, not a good joke. Okay, my point is he's trying to hack the notion of humanity. People who are also hacking humanity for a more noble cause. Hugh Hare. Hugh Hare is the first bionic. His story is so simple. At 17, he was climbing with a best friend. They got caught in a storm on the mountain. His best friend died. He lost both his legs. A week after coming back from the hospital, his brother took him to climb, knowing how much he loved to climb. And what he realized was if he cracked his prosthetics, if he hacked these feet, then he could actually climb better than he could with his real limbs. At that moment, he decided that he was going to dedicate his life to turn disability into ability. I saw him speak on a stage right after I got off. Somebody asked him, they said, do you ever see a world where somebody would opt to have a bionic limb over a real limb? He said, well, let me answer this. If you're 72 and your arthritic arm doesn't operate like your 18-year-old one does, what would you do? And there was a hush, because at that moment, the crowd realized we might actually become more computer than we actually are human, and we're entering into that age. So we have to think different. Even Amy Webb said, I have to think different about finding love. So she reverse engineered her social network to find the man of her dream, and she wrote a book about it. So what does that mean to big organizations? Well, I would argue that the first means you have to hack culture. You have to create an environment that's going to drive change. You have to create an environment that's going to drive new thinking. You have to create an environment that's not afraid to break themselves. And I think you guys have seen a lot of the work that we've done, whether it's the Oreo work, whether it's the Cadbury cream egg work, whether it's all of these prototypes that are changing the way marketing will happen for generations. And we believe we're at the forefront of that because we're encouraging the talent that sits in our building to take chances, to break us, to break themselves. But more importantly, it's not just about marketing, it's about breaking your core business. So we set out to do that. We asked ourselves, how do we break our direct business, the business of snacking? And so we started by looking at a little history of snacking through the years. So it's interesting because food started off very simple, right? We used to kill and hunt. And then somebody got a smart idea and said, you know what? It'd be great if we had grocery stores. Well, some inspiring entrepreneur came up with the Piggly Wiggly. And there, grocery stores were born. But humans still being too lazy, they got tired of hunting. Now they were tired of driving to the store. So finally, they needed to actually have the food prepared to them. And now McDonald's serves billions of burgers. But that still wasn't enough for us. We actually had to invent things like Fresh Direct. We can't even leave our home to get the basic essentials. We needed to have it delivered directly to us, or seamless, right? And then that's still not enough. Here's Peter Shankman. He got on an airplane. He was hungry. He tweeted, I wish I had a steak. Morton's delivered it directly to the airport when he landed. That's the type of laziness that we as humans portray. But what's interesting is that one man had a vision about revolutionizing snacking, and that was Willy Wonka. He saw a day when you could actually just print the food that you wanted, and people were blown away and amazed. Guess what? We're seeing that world today. You can actually print any food you want, whether it's chocolate, whether it's candy, whether it's pizza, whether it's a hamburger. And wait, might even be a cookie. Wait for it. Wait, not yet. It's not yet. Soon. And with that type of innovation, we might see more innovation. So FedEx might actually become a place where I can just send a piece of food to. Don't worry, go pick up my recipe. I'll print it out at FedEx Kinko's. And Amazon's making it so easy that we might even be able to just deliver directly wherever you are. You might be able to order a cookie from the urinal. I don't know. These things might work. So what we wanted to do was explore these for ourselves. So we set out to look at what was the future of snacking distribution. And as a result, we had to start someplace. And the first place we started was getting outside of our four walls. So we took the entire Global Oreo team on a trip to look at the most innovative, thought-provoking content and companies in the world. We spent 4 days together, 14 partners, 567 PowerPoint slides. The more PowerPoint slides, the better innovation will happen. Trust me on this one. I firmly believe that. So we did hyper brainstorming, the whole team, coming up with idea after idea after idea. We even plotted it against the consumer journey. What do they encounter? What do they explore? 4 days, and guess what? This one little idea became the nugget. This one up there, vending what's trending. Vending what's trending. Imagine if we could actually vend what people were talking about in social media at that time. And that turned into a little project we called trending vending. I'm going to show you a video and then come back and explain how we brought that to life.
Happen if an Oreo cookie you hold in your hand were a part of the social network. Oreo, the world's favorite cookie for over 100 years, dared to wonder about and envision the future of snacking distribution. So they conducted an experiment to bring this to life, tapping into the immediacy and spontaneity of social media to create custom, real-time snacks. The test kitchen was South by Southwest Interactive 2014 in Austin, Texas, where Oreo unveiled a new experimental technology called trending vending. They developed proprietary 3D printers that built custom cookies based on trending social conversations, allowing visitors to select, make, and taste cookies in real time. Twitter-powered algorithms turned each topic into unique Oreo inventions that visitors could further customize to match their mood right at that exact moment. Between all the various cream flavors, colors, patterns, and wafers, over 16,000 delicious custom Oreo cookie variations were possible. And yes, they all tasted like the cookies Oreo fans know and love, truly bringing the wonder-filled experience to life. 10,000 Oreo lovers waited in line for upwards of 2 hours for the chance to create their very own cookies and be a part of the experiment. Then they shared their experiences with the world. Feedback was enthusiastic and immediate, inspiring others to take part in this one-of-a-kind experience. The trending vending activation propelled one of the largest spikes in Oreo social conversation and media attention since the Dunk in the Dark tweet of the 2013 Super Bowl. Oreo saw the highest Twitter engagement at South by Southwest among comparable food and snacking brand activations. Trending vending epitomized the iconic Oreo wonder-filled brand experience, triggering the imagination and curiosity of the media with overwhelming and positive results. Following the success of the activation, Oreo is now taking the trending vending machines on the road. Imagine a future where you could make custom snacks locally in your own backyard, fresh, on demand, and wonder-filled. Now that would taste pretty good.
I know you're saying, what? Say it ain't so. An actual 3D printer that prints Oreos based on what's being talked about in Twitter. It is so. I saw it myself. In fact, it was so amazing. People would walk up to the machine, and they were like, what is going on? How is this happening? It was like real Willy Wonka. I did a couple of tours and would take them behind the scenes and show them actually how we brought it to life. What I think was really interesting is that we learned so much from this. So one, people will wait online for one cookie. It's crazy. We had two machines. One, we were choosing the trends, and you could print and watch the whole thing. The second, you could go up and actually customize it. People love to customize stuff. So much so, they waited online in the rain for up to 2 hours to actually customize the cookie. But the other thing we learned is that bringing to life big ideas is very difficult. It requires the entire team and the support of the entire organization. In fact, what we were doing, we're taking rudimentary bits, and now we had to turn those into atoms, and these are the pieces we started with. We had to create things that never existed before. There was no such thing as an Oreo cream pump. It didn't exist. So this is medical-grade pumps that we had, and compressors that we had to turn in. The nozzle, we didn't know what right-sized nozzle. We had to play around with the nozzles, figure out how. In fact, we couldn't first get real cream here, so we had to use a fake substance to figure out what the right viscosity was. What's interesting is this project actually only took 6 weeks from the time we greenlit it to the time we brought it together. We had to build proprietary technology to run the spinner. That had never existed before. We had to reach 6 years into the future and bring the future of printing food back to now so we could actually bring it to life. And that all turned into what was a beautiful activation and execution. But I think the other thing that was interesting is that it wasn't just a physical challenge. It was also a technology challenge. We called it affectionately Eat the Tweet. But what it meant was we had to translate tweets into food. So we had to create our own quantified snack markup language, which actually told you, based on the propensity of conversation or the sentiment, what flavor. We had two different wafers, vanilla and chocolate. We had 12 different flavors that could spin around. First of all, most 3D printers only print with 2 or 3 elements. We had to print with now 14. And most 3D printers just print up. We had to print up and down, up and down. Totally new technology to bring that to life. But what I think is the most amazing thing that happened out of this is that we learned that there might be a totally new way to run our business. In fact, Dwayne, and again, this all goes back to talent and culture. Dwayne, who's one of our food engineers, saw this. He was so energized by what he saw, he said, I'm going to figure out how to bring this to life in mass. He went back and he said, okay, how do I recreate this experience, this customizable experience, so I can do it on a mass level? When the Oreos are run through the machine, we have die cuts that put the embossments, right? It takes about a week to get a die cut. He went out and bought his first 3D printer and started printing his own die cuts. Now he can print die cuts in 15, 20 minutes, but he realized that still wasn't fast enough. So he created new technology that allows us to customize other areas of the cookie. And hopefully, this will become a really successful business for us in the future. But the point here is that if you create a culture that inspires individuals, if you create experiments that challenge the core of your business, if you bring partners around from all over the place, you can truly create something that's great. And instead of being Blockbuster to Netflix, you can be, I don't know an analogy. Anyway, you can win. There you go. So, long story short is that Alan Kay said that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And ladies and gentlemen, I would argue that the best way to predict the future is to hack it. And so with that, I encourage you to follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter, reach out to me, find me some e-commerce folks, and I love you guys. I'm so happy I had the chance to be with you, and thank you so much for staying to hear me speak.
Hey. Nicely done. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're too kind.
You're working too hard.
I have to shut it. I have to give a good show for the folks, you know?
Well, you have to give a good show, but you also have to finish in time to let them go over and see, what's the guy's name? Some Irish rock star is going to be over in the main hall at about 5 o'clock, and I don't think there's probably enough room for everybody, so
all right. Sorry
you might
about
want
that.
to get over there early.
You saw B.Bonin, now go see Bono. I get how it works. Yeah, we planned it.
From B2B. So on behalf of Patty Cosgrave and Dara Hickey and the great tech team here in this room and everybody at the Web Summit, it's been great to have you here. You've been a great audience packing this place out. We hope to see you next year. Same place, same time. Thank you.
Thank you.